start that one over. So the pharmacodynamics, or how does humic acid behave in the presence of a cell membrane, is very interesting. Let's start that over. This particular slide offers a glimpse into the behavior of humic acid in the presence of a cell membrane and a virus. And what's interesting to note from this particular information is that given the opportunity, a virus is going to preferentially bind to the humic acid than it does to a cell membrane. And in this particular case, we're talking influenza. But the affinity for influenza, but the affinity for humic acid, not working. This particular slide gives us an opportunity to look at the relative attraction of humic acid for a virus versus a cell membrane ACE2 receptor. And what we've learned from this particular study and others is that viral affinity for humic acid is higher than its affinity for the ACE2 receptor. And what that means in practice is, in the presence of humic acid, an influenza virus may actually leave the ACE2 receptor. Oh, it's not. That's a mistake too. Let's take a look at the humic. Let's take a moment to look at the affinities of humic acid for a virus and the cell membrane. And this particular study illuminated that humic acid is a strong attractant for the influenza virus. So much so that if given the opportunity to choose between humic acid and the cell membrane receptor, the influenza virus actually prefers humic acid. It will also leave the cell membrane. It will also leave the cell membrane receptor and bind onto the humic acid molecule preferentially. So let's look at study design. In this particular study, we started with 40 patients, ended with 37. The dosing of humic acid was 500 milligrams versus placebo 3 times a day for 14 days. Patients were evaluated at baseline and at day 7 and day 14. And the assessments that were run during the study included subjective impressions of how well or unwell someone feels, as well as blood testing and vitals. The kinds of ideas that we were interested in following when speaking to a patient looked at fever and chills, muscle aches and joint aches, headache, fatigue, nasal congestion, ear aches, and a cough. The blood testing that was conducted during the study looked at white blood cell counts, complete blood counts, immune system markers like CD4 and CD8 cells, inflammatory markers such as tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin 8, as well as serum chemistry and liver enzymes. Now, what was not permitted during the study was the use of medications to opined that their symptoms were improved, whereas 36.8% in the placebo group thought their symptoms were improved. And as you run through the different options here, fever, myalgias and arthralgias, chills, fatigue, and a runny nose, you see differences between the groups.